One more question for you that I've been wanting to get in. Do you believe that Trump believes that the wall is the answer?
That was my next question.
Yeah, somebody in the chat asked if will it be built too.
Yeah. We've seen a lot of historical instances where walls don't work in modern times. North Korea has the most secure border in the world. It's got electrified fences, 2 miles of landmines in either direction,
and people still get across.
In armed guards, and people still get across. People are still making it through regularly. I don't believe that a fence at the border of Mexico, which is so long and so impossible,
which will not have barbed wire, electrified, and landmines, I assume,
which is so long and so difficult to monitor,
2,000 miles,
will actually make much of a difference. Does he believe that it will make a difference,
or is it just the campaign?
Well, I mean, here's what I would say: it doesn't actually matter. I mean, I think the answer is yes. He absolutely thinks it will make a difference, but I think at this point, it has become a political symbol. It has become a totem of a right versus left ideological tug of war. And so we can intellectually debate whether a wall works or doesn't work. The Israelis say it does. The North Koreans is evidence that it doesn't. There's the Berlin Wall would be evidence that it frankly worked a little, but not really. Some people came over the wall. And we can go through history and examine walls where some have worked and some haven't worked.
Yeah.
I think if you really got the president in a quiet situation, you ask them honestly, I think he's into the strategic approach where in certain areas you would put a wall up, in other areas you don't need one.
Yeah. Well, like Texas is fighting him hand over foot that they don't want one because they don't want to try and take away all these people's properties and cause that ruckus.
Right. So I would say,
as a matter of fact, what I've heard is that Texas will fight him for 10 years in court and that they'll never see slat one put in Texas. Is that, you agree with that?
I think they're going to give him a fight. Yes. I mean, when somebody asks, is the wall going to be built? The generic answer to that is no. The wall, 2,000 miles or 1,200 miles of the wall are not going to be built. But is he going to add more fencing and more barriers on that border during his presidency, 2 or 6 years left of his presidency? Yes, he's definitely.
Your personal,
not going to be the wall the way you read about in Game of Thrones. You know,
I would like your personal opinion on this, not Trump's, Chris's, mine, or anyone else's. But let's say he gets his $8 or $9 billion from taken away from all the other sources. Number one, I think you have to continue to help the hurricane victims, the fire victims in California. To me, you can't take $1 from these people. If anything, you add more. And also the people that are victims of 9/11 that are running out of money, that are still dropping dead just from being first responders and things like that. I don't think you take any money away. You have to put money into that. But what is your belief on where that $8 to $9 million can go? Or do you really think that we got to put this towards the wall? Lindsey Graham said, no, the kids in Kentucky don't need a new school. They need a wall. They're a long damn way from that wall. I don't know how much that wall is, how anybody coming across that border is affecting those kids at a middle school in Kentucky. Well, I mean, maybe in a roundabout way, but a lot of drugs are coming in here that don't have shit to do with that wall. Can I say pardon my language on my own show? There you go. Yeah, pardon my language.
Well, I mean, here's what I would say to you. I would say that this is a situation where truth meets fiction, because if you remember the House of Cards in the first season when he's president, he's moving FEMA money into the jobs program, and he's doing it basically by subverting the Congress. And
I never got to watch the show, but I heard a lot about it, and I need to see.
I'll just give an example. That sort of thing is actually happening in real life now. So I predict that he's going to have a very hard time. You didn't ask me this, but I'm going to answer it. Declaring a national emergency on this issue was a mistake. And it was,
I agree.
It was tantamount to the mistake that Harry Reid made by going to the nuclear option in the Senate. So Harry Reid hurt himself because it helped him temporarily. And now that Mitch McConnell controls the Senate, he's using it against the Democrats.
You know, a Kentucky boy that shops at our grocery store right up the road.
Well, there you go. So to me, I think it's a mistake. It's bad precedent setting. We're going down a slippery slope, and it's a sign that there's actually something wrong with the system, because the founding fathers set it up so that we would be forced to compromise, that none of us, like Reagan once said, you know, I'm shooting for 100, but I know I've got to settle at 80.
Mhm.
You're probably reading the news reports tonight where 16 states and their attorney generals have already engaged in a
Yes.
lawsuit against the president.
I didn't realize it was 16, but I had heard it was growing.
Yeah, but it's up to 16 now. It'll probably be 30 by the time the thing
Probably.
comes around. And here's the problem, looking at the
But
statutes
he
and
knew
so
this was
forth.
going to happen, though. He knew this was going to happen.
Yeah, well, he said it. He said, this is what's going to happen, and hopefully we'll get a
In
fair
sing
shake.
song, as they said, he said it.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get a fair shake at the Supreme Court. But what I would have said to the president is, I get what he's doing. I know he needs that base to turn out in 2020. I know he has to send a message to him. I know the government closed for that reason.
Yeah.
He's got to send a message to his base that he's there for them. But here's the thing: you're going down a path that you don't want to go down. And here's the thing I would say to the president: if you were Donald J. Trump, the business person, and Donald J. Smith was running the country and shutting down the government because they were in a peeing contest with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, you'd be on Howard Stern railing on those three banana heads. So
He would.
So I think you would. And so
I agree.
also he said about Barack Obama, go through the Congress. You can't use these executive actions to get what you want to go through the Congress. Now he's doing the exact same thing. So if he was on your show, he would say, yeah, I said that because I didn't really understand how hard it was. And so now I'm doing exactly what Obama did. But I would argue differently. I would say bridge of compromise. That's how the system was set up. That's what the American people really want.
Right.
You ask the American people, you say, do you want your government to compromise for progress? That's a 72% vote. Go look at the polling on that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So 72% of America would like there to be a compromise. Everyone else is entrenched somewhere. Those are the deadbeats, frankly. Let's compromise and get some stuff done for the American people.
Makes sense.
Question on the chat. It says, is this country as really divided as the media made it out to be at the end of Obama's administration?
I think it is. My opinion.
So it feels that when you travel, it feels that way. I think everyone would find comfort in is that there are less politically minded people in our country that are just going about their day, and they're probably less tuned into Fox News or MSNBC or so forth. But
how welcome at Fox News are you?
I'm sorry?
How welcome at Fox News are you? Do you do much over there?
Yeah, no, I do a ton at Fox News, but I also do a ton at CNN. I do a ton at MSNBC. And so
that's how it should be, in my opinion.
Yeah, my attitude is I tell people what I think. And if I'm good for their ratings, they'll keep inviting me on. When I stop being good for their ratings, they'll stop inviting me.
You keep being on, so apparently you're good for the ratings.
Right. So, I mean, look, I tell people what I think, and I try to do it in an elegant but unvarnished way. But I think to your blogger's comment, or is I think we're pretty divided, and I think we've gotten a little bit more heated recently.
Someone wants to know whose your influences are.
That's a good question. I like that. Yeah, go ahead.
In terms of what, political influences, like business influences?
Yeah, influences in your early life. Like who did you model to?
My question is going to be: is when did you develop your love for politics and got so knowledgeable about it? I mean, there's not much you don't know.
Well, I would say this, that I accidentally got involved because I'm way more focused on business and entrepreneurship, and I can prove that to you guys. I spent 30 years of my career building my business and really not that, politically involved. I was fundraising for Governor Romney. That election failed. And then I picked up for Scott Walker and Jeb Bush. And then I promised that I would back the eventual nominee. And so what ended up happening is when the president won, I became this like accidental entrant into the system. I was really a fundraising business person, but the truth is, if you go back in my life, I've always been an avid reader, and I've always been very interested in American political history. So when you say who's influenced me, the living people really that have influenced me would be my mom and dad. They're basic people, blue collar people never went to college. My dad was like a very honest guy, a lot like the bus driver in a Bronx Tale. Took no BS, but he paid his taxes and did everything very
Ralph Cramden.
Yeah, that sort of thing. And so, but I would say from a political perspective, I have really adopted more of like a Milton Friedman, the economist from the University of Chicago, Ronald Reagan. But it's also elements more of libertarianism and less conservatism or Republican politics. I don't care who marries who. I don't care what people do in their bedrooms. I tell my Republican friends, you guys are jokers. I mean, you want a smaller government everywhere in the country except my bedroom. You want a larger government. It's sort of nonsensical. It's very hypocritical. So to me, in some ways, I benefited from the fact that none of my family members went to college. So in a weird way, I have less influence on me, and this sort of feeling or philosophical bent has been developed as a result of my reading and my life experience. I don't really have anybody in my family I could turn to and say, yeah, I learned all this from my dad,
right.
Like the way the Bushes have, But here's the thing. If you're in business and you're investing, you got to read everything that Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger have written. Now, they're dyed-in-the-wool Democrats. I could care less. They're
Right.
the smartest, brightest investors that have ever lived.
Yeah.
And a good piece of my financial independence and my financial success has been born from paying very close attention to how they run money and replicating that strategy for myself and my clients and my family. But on the political side, I would tell you that I've gotten interested because here in New York, if you make $1, you only get to keep 47 cents. And so you're now a minority partner in your own life.
Yeah.
So my majority partners are Bill de Blasio, Andrew Cuomo, and Donald J. Trump. How are those guys doing for me? I wake up at 6 a.m., go to work, make $1 for my family, 53 cents gets blown out the door.
Wow.
To my majority partner. So I would tell people out there listening to this, podcast, broadcast, if you're in a high tax state, or even if you're not, if you're making a lot of money, you're getting 30-40% of your money taken from you.
And the high tax states primarily are New York, California, and who else would you lump into that?
Well, Illinois.
Well, anything in the Northeast, I guess.
Yeah, but also, Illinois, Chicago, that's a high tax area.
Wow.
But I would just say, hey, you're a minority partner in your life. You better get involved with the hiring decisions. You better come up with a point of view, and you better activate, because if you don't, they're going to keep taking the money from you, and it's not going to go in a place where you want it to.